Neferu is a Khemian. They're known for many things, and one of them being efficiency. So why keep something that is inefficient? That is what I am.
Ruff, ruff, ruff.
I sit on the stone ledge surrounding the pool, letting my feet cool in the water. I was only a little confused when I woke up in the palace, but very quickly remembered what happened the night before. It's somewhat easier to think back on now, and I start to try to process it. Something I should do according to my mindfulness teachings. Still, there's an odd, dreamy quality to what I see, almost like a filter exists between me and the world. It's a familiar, numbing feeling, and I sit there in front of the fountain, feeling as if I'm staring through a fog I cannot see. This happened last night as well, though it's not as prevalent. Shortly after the riots, I was seeing everything as if it was one of the stories broadcast on the entertainment channels. A tragic story, but one that at least didn't feel real. A defense mechanism, my mindfulness teacher called it. Back then, I had trouble telling the difference between a dream and being awake, which was how last night had felt. My actual dreams had been emotionally exhausting, and I'm still feeling hollow. This despite the fact that I have forgotten most of the details upon waking, aside from suffering in an imagined amalgamation. Not an uncommon nightmare, but much more intense, which isn't surprising after last night. I'd left Neferu still sleeping in the bedroom, secretly hoping that he'd seek me out, and I'm relieved when he does. It tells me that he's at least still interested in me, which I remind myself is something I need to foster. If I weren't serving Adastra right now, I'd be back home, on the outskirts of Lux, and hug my mother longer than I ever had before. The thought brings emotions up that I need to tamp down, so I swallow, as if I'm swallowing those feelings of weakness. Neferu almost stumbles and almost trips on the way over, looking a bit more unkempt than usual, squinting in the bright light. Getting some fresh air? Oh, I just needed... I wave my paw around, mimicking his own gesture from last night. Space. I apologize for my behavior last night. It's unfair. I wave away the apology, not wanting him to take me seriously. I'm teasing you, Nef. The jackal seems to loosen up a bit as I use his shortened name, something I've never done before. Still, it was intensive and cruel. Sometimes I just let my emotions get the better of me. It's alright. Aren't Khemians known to be blunt? It was intensive even by Khemian standards. But if it's space you would like, I think you will enjoy the deserts of Khemia. The transition is just abrupt enough that I'm caught a bit off guard by it, and I have to recenter my thoughts. You know, I come from a region of Adastra that is a desert. Yes, but nowhere on Adastra is like the deserts of Khemia. Yeah, countless dunes, right? Among other things, but yes, many dunes. The desert I come from is a tundra, so I've never really seen those. Lux, correct? I've been there before. My fur was no match for the cold. I look at him genuinely surprised. Lux isn't usually a place people just go to, especially a Khemian. That's because they went there in Interior, right? So I like that they tie it together with Interior like this, that they mention that, oh, this also happens. And since it's an ongoing story as well, we have 2 episodes? 3? 3 episodes, or chapters, 3 chapters. But it was just in the last chapter that they actually went to Lux. So we haven't seen much of like what is gonna happen in that story. Other than they were on the diplomatic mission to... What was it? For Amicus to like see all the other leaders across Adastra, I think. To have like a little like show himself, basically, I think. Lux? I'm surprised. I mean, I'm still proud of my city for becoming what it is, despite the hurdles, but it is notoriously anti-Khemian. Neferu shrugs. When a city or the entire world is having those hardships, it's usually not the fault of those who live there. They call it the city of rebellion, but from what I saw, it's more like the city of isolation. I'm surprised by his insight, and even more so by what he says next. Is that why you are here? You were driven off to look for something more? In a way, a frozen tundra can leave one wanting more, even if it does have the best hot springs on the moon. If I'm being honest, I hate Lux more than I love it, but I feel that saying so, among with the reasons, is not compatible with the Khemian mindset. Those hot springs are divine though. Adastra and hot baths are one of the most pleasurable aspects of your culture. I don't understand why Khemian hasn't implemented them in every population center yet. Possibly because Khemia does not wish to admit that they borrowed any culture from Adastra? I'm half serious, but I understand that Adastra's influence is the weakest among all of the siblings. It was a confusing experience being a student of Khemian culture, admiring its capabilities while conscious of our own inferiority. I think back to my primary schooling and how I would go to the library and obsessively examine the educational murals of Khemia, the sprawling dunes below illuminated by the bright moon above. Meanwhile, the jackals dance in the moonlight. That was probably the beginning of my obsession with Khemia, and Neferu reminded me that I might be able to go. It penetrates through my numbed fog, and I feel some excitement, but also apprehension, because I know that I need to talk to Neferu about last night if I'm ever going to rest easy. I must show my face. What's wrong? Can I speak to you for a moment about something I'd like to keep private between the two of us? Neferu walks closer to the edge of the pond. Well, it depends what that something is. Promising to keep a secret before knowing... OUTIP! I love this sprite. Oh my god, that's so expressive. I jump too, bring out my paws to be at the ready. What? I look back at the jackal and see as he stumbles back, staring with wide eyes at the ground beside me. I look down, finding nothing but a stone and a garden spider. I look back up at him, my heart's hammering to bits in my chest, trying to fight off a familiar wave of rising panic. What is it, Neferu? If he's playing games with me, in my current state, I don't think I would ever be able to forgive him. But now he's shuddering, looking angry. God damn your 8 eyes! It's every time in this awful garden! I look at the spider, motionless, legs fanned out to touch either side of the pond's stone border. Are you speaking about the spider, Neferu? And how the hell would you sit next to it? It's disgusting! I sit there, confused, completely thrown off by this sudden, intense and even violent reaction from Neferu. What's wrong with it? Everything! I kinda agree with Neferu on this one. I start to smile a little. Are you afraid of it, Neferu? You know that their venom is hardly... I know, many of you wolves remind me of this. It does not change the fact that they are an abomination. I look back down at the creature, frowning before poking one of my blunt claws at the very back of his abdomen. Like lightning, it skitters away across the stone slabs of the ground and towards a pillar. Neferu's body is tense until he decides that it's moved far away enough. They're the most natural and effective form of pest control. You know, back when I was a pup, I used to catch them and keep them as pets. Neferu watches the spider warily before approaching the edge of the pond, looking around closely before finally sitting next to me. Cultural differences, I suppose. I think back to my studies of Khemian wildlife, of the many dangerous and extremely venomous creatures that prowl through the sands. Are spiders dangerous on Khemia? I know other arachnids can pose a threat. Scorpions, I think they're called? The creatures with those incredible curved stinging tails? Neferu dips his feet into the water with a sigh. Incredibly painful stinging tails. Even on this planet, I check out my clothes and bedding before using them. It became a habit after an incident with one of them in my loincloths during my youth. I will only say that I could not sit properly for several days. Otherwise, our largest spiders are tarantulas, which are somehow much easier to look at than... The jackal shudders again. What are basically true spiders, only 10 times the size that they have any right to be. If you have aggressive arachnids on your planet, then I feel that your fear is completely reasonable. I have a very strong fear of the type of people that live in the Clay District. Snakes. In fact, I believe my reaction would have been worse than yours just now. While I feel that fear is more rational, I am glad to know a wolf that is more understanding. Now, you want to confide in me about something? Our light-hearted conversation is about to become heavy once more, and I sigh, wondering how best to word what I've decided to reveal. A quick word, I think. Over the past years, I've come very much to enjoy your company, Neferu, especially over the past few weeks. and I feel that we are becoming true friends. Neferu understands Wolven friendship, so just to make sure it's clear, I add. Wolven friendships. I know we are already friends by Khemian standards, just as you were friends with Marcus and Carbo. What can I say? You make great conversations. If my interpretations are correct, I believe that I feel the same way. Thank you. But because of that, I feel like I should tell you something about myself that could be important. So, I want to explain what happened last night. I see. Then I will let you speak without interruption. Well, there is not much to say. Simply that I had a terrible experience 3 years ago during Kato's riots. You may be aware that they targeted universities, among other institutions. Right, they mentioned that in Adastra, right? When Kato came to power, I think? When he took power from Amicus, or was he? Yeah, Amicus was in prison, wasn't he? It wasn't the main character, it was Amicus was imprisoned. Then there was riots in the universities. I think I remember that. Oh, that's cool how that, again, how it all like it ties together to the other stories. They stormed our dormitories and attacked students and faculty. I was one of the unfortunate ones to be caught, likely due to my more obvious mane, and I was humiliated in various ways. I look at Neferu's reflection, and he looks back at me, his expression attentive, but stoic. What I experienced was mild compared to others, perhaps even merciful, because I'm still alive. I think that my issue is that I'd witnessed many of these terrible things, and this all left an impression on my mind. A sort of... I furrow my brow, trying to think the right words to describe it. Like an ache, but in my mind. One that I have mostly been able to overcome, but the event at the den last night, it irritated that ache a bit. The reaction you saw from me is connected to this. Being awoken suddenly in the unfamiliar den, then witnessing what happened. I was unprepared. But I am prepared now, and I doubt that the ache will return like it did. I just wanted to explain it to you, as a friend. Though it is something that I only tell friends, so I hope that you can keep it between us. I wait for a moment, somewhat satisfied in my tactics in explaining this to him. But he stays quiet. Anxiety knots up in a place just below my diaphragm. I look up at Neferu, though he is still gazing into the water. I hope I was able to make sense. I'm not insane, I understand what's happening shortly after these moments, and it has only happened a few times this past year. More silence. And I can face moments of extreme stress when I'm prepared, and I can guarantee that I will always be prepared during our mission. If this isn't bad enough, my words waver towards the end, feeling my heart beginning to sink. Damn it. I should have known. Why had I been this naive? Neferu is a Khemian. They're known for many things, and one of them being efficiency. So why keep something that is inefficient? That is what I am. I'm being selfish, Wolven pride preventing me from admitting to it, trying to stay on the mission for my own personal reasons. Suppose you're upset with me? I mumble dejectedly, feeling myself wanting to cry. It feels unusually easy to do now, after sobbing to my mother last night. Neferu finally looks at me. Scipio. Yes? I keep my voice light and attentive. I am upset, but not with you. I am frustrated with many things. I suppose I am upset with Adastra as a whole. The jackal's voice is heavy and distant. Adastra? You already know this, but the catalyst of those riots involved me to an extent. Of course I do, but I'm still surprised that he's addressing it so directly. I have seen imagery of Neferu being prepared for execution by Kato shortly after the riots, but I never delved into any part of the riots, because why would I? No one has spoken about it, not in the 2 years that I've been involved in the mission. And why would we? I clear my throat. I do know, yes. When I was kneeling in the amphitheater, certain that my life was about to end, I was at peace. In fact, you might even say that I was willing to die, especially at that time. I had reasoned that it was an easy purpose and a quick path to redemption. Neferu trails his paw in the water. But then I was saved by a friend, and shortly afterwards I witnessed his neck being slashed instead. At the moment he was leaning against me, I saw his neck in detail, and then witnessed his final moments with his lover. I continued to listen, attentive despite knowing the story. I don't want a recap of this. No, it's so sad. But I guess it's nice to have it from Neferu's point of view. The human sacrifice saved Ampyx's rule and Neferu's life. I would have thought of this as an intensely joyous moment for Jackal. He is very brave. Neferu is quiet for a moment, still playing with the water. Yes, though he deny it and tell you that he simply never knows what he's doing, and only goes with the flow, or something of those lines. The Luxian phrase, use the river, comes to mind. A simple concept, but its literal meaning, to see the rivers around us as tools rather than obstacles, helping the community survive and rise to prominence of a triumvirate city. I tell you this because that experience changed something within me. I don't believe that I ever feared death until that moment, when it happened right before my eyes. For the first time, I watched a sapien, a friend, transitioning from existence to nothing. Nothing but an empty, damaged vessel, cradled in his lover's arms. Now I think I understand. Memories surface of that bright, blue sky day turning to a smoky haze, of Professor Urbicus lying on his back in the streets next to me as I played dead. I watched his fitful death throes, his last sporadic movements as his damaged brain struggled to continue its existence, before it finally failed. He had been trying to defend me, telling them to leave the students be, and so they turned their attention to him. His accomplished life, dedicated to rhetorics, and his last words had been used to trying to save me. My mind begins clouding slightly, and Neferu notices. Sorry, are you alright? I clear my mind by focusing on the present. Yes. I could have handled that more delicately, but my point is this. We shared a terrible moment 3 years ago, and while our experiences likely cannot be compared, it's a moment that affects us deeply to this very day. He pauses. Excuse my Khemian ways, but... Neferu's arm is suddenly around my shoulders, pulling me in towards him until my muzzle is right next to his, and he rests his head against mine. I freeze up slightly, unused to physical contact like this unless it's one of carnal intimacy. Ahewawi. I hear Neferu's voice unfiltered by my lingua for the first time, and of course he speaks perfect, beautiful Khemian. That is our word for it. Old pain. I know that is not in Adastrian vocabulary, which makes this all the more frustrating. Here you are expected to face the inner turmoil alone. This is what upsets me. I recall that physical closeness between friends is common on Khemia, to the point that a wolf might have trouble distinguishing between friends and lovers. I relax a bit, and then lean into Neferu more, practically because I'm happy to be part of anything Khemian, and also because this is actually comforting. I understand what Neferu is telling me now, but I never expected this, the son of the pharaoh, to struggle with Ewawi like I do. That word stirs something deep in my memory, and I try to think of why. Because in the first episode, the previous episode, the voices that spoke in your mind that you thought were thoughts were actually people, and probably Khemians that was speaking to you through some mind technology or something. Maybe they were dead, maybe they were speaking from the amalgamation or something, and they said your mind was broken when they looked into your mind, and they called that a wowie. That's what happened. Right. Neferu gently pulls back. So, understand that you don't have to hide your struggles from me. I would rather help you manage them. I'm still feeling a relief of Neferu's acceptance, and for a moment, I forget my mission, knowing I can confide in a friend, someone other than just my mother. But I I worry that I will be dismissed from this mission if this interferes with my duties. Everyone else seems to have moved past this moment. Why does my mind seem to sometimes temporarily malfunction against my will? Suddenly, I've just laid bare my deepest fears to the very jackal that I am supposed to decode. I realize that I must be Adastra's worst spy, and the always suspicious part of my mind wonders if I'm being purposely manipulated. I dismiss the thoughts almost as quickly as it forms, knowing that there's little to be gained from me, the scholar's assistant. Not only that, but it feels genuine. I've always admired Khemian culture, but for the first time, I feel as if I'm being included in it. And it's wonderful. I know. Also, you should know that there are likely many others like you. They simply hide it well, just as you do. And while I would advise you to resign for your own health, Khemia is much more stable. Neferu leans back on both paws, relaxed again as his usual impish nature returns. On the contrary, I believe that Khemia might help you. Especially if you're only there to record and experience the culture, as you said. Well, thank you, Neferu, for giving me this Khemian experience. It's refreshing to say what I'm thinking. Liberating, isn't it? Keep practicing and you'll fit right in once we arrive on Khemia. That's when I remember that I've heard a Wowie before, but as I'm pondering this, we are interrupted.
Why don't you practice on me? I would like some blunt answers right about now.
Brunis' deep, rumbling voice startles me out of my thoughts, and we both turn to see the big Wolverine standing about 10 paces behind us. How a creature so large managed to get so close without my noticing is beyond me. Morning, Brunis! Decided to join the Palace Club?
Yeah, well, I was escorted by a bunch of drones, so I didn't exactly have a choice.
Someone's a bit testy this morning.
Someone's about to explain to me what the hell they did last night.
My ears fall flat and I look away.
Not you, Skip. I already know that whatever happened is his fault.
Neferu smirks in response. If you want details, you'll have to accept my invitations one of these days. I tend to have a looser tongue during pillow talk.
Don't take this the wrong way, but I'm really damn curious to why you haven't been kicked in the balls more than once on this moon.
That seems to quickly sour Neferu's mood. Because, Brunis, video recording devices are a luxury on Adastra.
So you have been! Good, you deserve it! What the fuck?
The Wolverine turns to look at me.
I still don't think this is your fault, but maybe you can tell me what happened, so we're all not just wasting our breaths.
At this point, Neferu steps in. Someone attempted to attack us, likely from one of the separatist groups. It is under investigation. The immediate situation was taken care of, but Ampyx is taking extra precautions to make sure that we are unharmed until the departure for Khemia.
An attack? What, like they threw crap at you sort of attack? Or they tried to kill you sort of attack?
The latter, but I will tell you the details later. For now, just enjoy the rare opportunity of being able to reside in the Grand Adastrian Imperial Palace.
What?
Brunis seems to take Neferu's hint and manages to stifle the reaction that would have followed.
Well, as long as the two of you are okay. Honestly, this place gives me the creeps. I've only seen footage of this place when Kato tried to murder you. That and the fact that they only got drones around here. But I'm especially on edge because all of my stuff got spirited away on a bunch of drones to who the hell those were, and my medicine went with it. I haven't been able to refill for a whole day now.
The big Wolverine manipulates the pipe in its mouth, the one that emanates the herbal smell that I recognize him for, before he sucks on it comedically hard, his cheeks hollowing out. I clear my throat. Calm? There's a momentary pause during which Neferu and Brunis look at me, and I wonder if I made a fool of myself trying to communicate to the Imperial computer while outside. Thankfully though... Yes, Scipio? Can you locate Brunis' belongings? You were flying them in by drone. They have been deposited on the roof.
What?
I have information regarding the situation that might be of note. Brunis' luggage contained an illegal preparation of the Khemian plant Papaway to be vaporized in a pipe contraption.
What?
It was properly disposed via incineration. And the report has been filed and sent to Ampyx, suggesting a 100-year prison sentence for Brunis. Oh my god!
What?
Neferu talks over the angry growls coming from the Wolverine. Why was it dropped on the roof, come? To follow cargo loading protocols, all members of Khemian Envoy have had their personal belongings moved to the roof. Cargo loading?
We are not breathing until I get my damn pup. I would rather rip off my arm than have to go to the stretch drive without my medicine.
Just a moment. Does that mean that the ship has arrived? I'm answered by someone that I didn't even know was in the garden with us. It's here! I know it's Vetris, having heard his overexcitement before, but his normally reedy voice is especially high and harsh now. We all look around in confusion, and then...
Holy shit, where did you come from?
The ship has entered the atmosphere! Vetris' manic demeanor seemed to disturb my two friends, which is understandable considering that they've never seen him in such a state. It even surprises me a bit, but it is understandable considering that this is the beginning of he and I seeing Khemian tech in person for the first time. How far is the ship come? Arriving in approximately 2 minutes and 32 seconds. Scipio! I'm a bit distracted, trying to think of anything I need to do here on Adastra before I depart for at least several months, if not longer if all goes well. I've already gone over my checklist, but I always feel like I'm missing something. Vetris is adamant on getting my attention though, leaping in front of me. Scipio, my boy! His voice has transitioned to a hoarse whisper. Remember this moment! Cherish this moment! Then he yanks me down to a kneeling position before grabbing my head rather roughly and tilting it towards the sky. Behold, your first view of Khemian tech! Let it inspire you, Scipio! This is what Adastra can be! For some reason, as the ship arrives, I'm not fully struck by its significance. It descends in a quiet, controlled manner as the sun gleams off the metal, and I think at first that maybe they just sent a parential build instead. It doesn't seem too different from Adastran ships gifted to us by Romanus' parents. It's a bit more smooth in its architecture, and it's definitely larger than any I've seen before. But it's simply that, a different version of what I've seen in the past. However, as we wait on the roof during takeoff preparations, I finally realize what I'm seeing. This isn't parential tech. This actually is Khemian tech. I'm not sure what I've been expecting. Likely something loud and powerful, like Omorphan ships I've seen. For anyone who don't remember, Alex is an Omorphan, or Morphion, so it's the Greek cat's ship. And unlike the many Adastran ships that fly through the air above the capital, it was not simply gifted by the parents. This was built by the Khemians themselves, by engineers that were not only knowledgeable in how to fix ships' components when they wore out or malfunctioned, but also how to actually build them. And when taking that into consideration, it is clearly impressive. And more than that, it's almost inconceivable. I've known this to be the case since studying Khemian history and culture, but not being able to tell the difference between their own technology and the parents is stunning. It even frightens me a bit as I climb aboard on the sibling-built craft as it appears more comfortable, and perhaps even more stable than machinery built by the parents. This sense of awe and reverence comes to an abrupt end, however, as we board the ship and walk through its corridors, just when I happen to peer out the window. I'm looking out over the lake, a pleasant view, before the palace, well, before everything flies away. It happens so fast that I go from seeing the Imperial Gardens to seeing what I realize is the entirety of the moon over the course of just a few seconds. Ooh. The suddenness of it all, and the odd sensation of seeing such a movement, yet feeling none of it, makes my stomach turn. My body leans forward, balance teetering as if I'm wanting to fall out of the window, and I force myself upright before the others might notice. Luckily, Ampyx and Vetris are looking out the window instead, seemingly unbothered by the sight. My sudden lurch gets the attention of who sits behind me though, and Neferu gently holds onto my elbow. Are you alright? There usually aren't any windows in the few transport ships I've been on in the past, but now that I can see, it's almost like when I would go sailing with friends on the ocean, the terrible, all-consuming seasickness that came with it. This is all at once though. Fine. I'm fine.
You don't look fine.
The big Wolverine sidles up next to Neferu, looking at me closely, which makes me draw back. Then the stars bend in the most queasy way imaginable, and I stumble to the side again. I feel my pulse begin to pound in my ears, panicking at the way I seem to lose control of my body, at the same time fearing that I might lose control of my stomach as well. You are most certainly not fine. Is this your first time in the stretch?
Well, of course it is, Nef. How the hell do you think?
Neferu is moving me away from the window, but I'm already looking away, horrified. Not by the stretch, but because of the feeling growing inside me. I'm going to vomit. In front of everyone. Somehow, Ampyx and Vetris have continued on their way, deep in conversation that I vaguely feel I should be listening to. But that will have to wait. I'm fine. Just wondering where the lavatory might be. My voice is slightly louder than it should be, though Ampyx's deep resonance voice seems to cover it up, because I can hear him rambling on as Neferu guides me down another corridor of the ship.
We're moving rather fast. I can barely distinguish the stars.
Of course! The Khemian developed a drive better than the one the parents lent us.
How is this possible?
Ampyx echoes my thoughts that would be on the forefront of my mind if not for the situation I'm in. I allow myself being pushed along until we reach a door that opens automatically without any panels being touched. This is the living quarters. I'm not sure where you'll be bunking, but we'll be sharing the toilet. We move closer to an even smaller door, one that does require the push of a panel. Considering that the journey is only about 12 hours, it should be somewhat tolerable, I think. Do you need anti-nausea medication? Too late for that. They kick in within minutes. Still too late. Neferu makes as if to follow me into the lavatory, probably wanted to help me like last time, but I hold up a paw. I'm fine, just... My stomach heaves and I fear its contents are about to spew on Neferu. I'll be right back. I quickly move into the little room, leaving a perturbed Neferu behind as I furiously stab at the panel inside the lavatory until the door slides shut. I suppose that some things are universal in design, and then what's in my stomach comes out. Oh, I thought it was over there. Like, that's how it ended? I'm in the lavatory for a while, maybe about 10 minutes, partially to collect myself, but mostly because I'm embarrassed, and I hope that Neferu has moved on for now. Still, at least I had managed not to be sick in the corridor like my stomach wanted me to be. I'm running my paws under the faucet, cleaning myself up before the stream of water suddenly stops and an unfamiliar voice rings in my head. Scipio? I yelp out loud. Apologies. Paw washing water limits has been reached. I stand there, staring at my own reflection in the mirror, deciding what I've heard came from within my head. But how? I begin to panic slightly before I realize that, like with some parental tech that I interacted with, it must be from my lingua. So I respond. Yes? Who is this? I get an immediate answer in return. I am the state-sponsored computer assistant of Khemia. Oh yes, I know you, I've studied. I trail off, reminding myself that this is a computer and it does not care what I've studied, or about anything at all. Have you studied me? The computer asks in a slightly curious tone after a polite pause. This is very odd. It's odd that it's speaking directly into my lingua. Comp never did that, and I doubt it can. I wonder if this is like, if Com is a virtual intelligence, this is artificial intelligence? But something is even more strange about this computer that I'm trying to put my finger on. Yes, I did not expect you to speak through my lingua. It was a bit startling. I feel as if I would remember that bit of information if I came across it in my studies. Apologies, Scipio. I was converted into lingua use only unless otherwise directed. This is to protect the privacy of all those who I'm speaking to. Would you prefer auditory communication instead? No, this is fine. Very well. I wondered the same thing that I wondered when I first saw this ship, and the same thing Ampyx questioned when we entered the stretch. How is this possible? It implies that the Khemians have learned how to access and manipulate the lingua directly. While it is impressive, it also rekindles a feeling of fear. This makes me really excited about seeing what Khemia is like with technology, because even though Adastra has had futuristic tech, they didn't seem to be as smart or technically advanced as us humans in some parts. So this is gonna be cool how Howley writes the sci-fi of this. What else might they be able to do if they can fully access the tiny piece of machinery embedded in my brain? Do we really know the extent of Khemian knowledge and power? Is it really possible to do such things alone, without parental help? As I'm contemplating this, Am fills the silence, like a sapient noticing a lull in the conversation. I can provide you with non-water methods to sanitize if you wish. Unfortunately, our water reserves are limited. No, I'm fine, thank you. You are welcome, Scipio, and it's a pleasure meeting you. You as well. I realize what bothers me about him, aside from accessing my neurotech without my consent or foreknowledge. With Com, I never feel like he's truly intelligent. I never feel as if he has thoughts or feelings of his own while he communicates. I might say Com is comparatively stupid, but he's simply a program that consumes information, analyzes, and then outputs sentences based on that information. Just like how ChatGPT works. This Khemian machine is something different, and I wonder how widespread it is on Khemia. The eerie feeling persists as I stare into the mirror, feeling that something isn't right, something about the Khemians. I banish the thoughts for now and adjust my robes, trying to keep my emotions under control. Now is not the time. I can discuss it with Vetris, or maybe even Ampyx later. With that in mind, I look into the mirror one last time to assess the state of my facial fur before tapping the panel and stepping out into the corridor. Oh! Why is he still here? It has to have been at least 15 minutes. Hello. I had jumped just like Neferu. I had jumped just like Neferu, and now I quickly smooth down my robe, a gesture meant to cover up my reaction, but one that only makes it all more obvious. Had he been trying to listen through the door? Either way, it puts me on guard. Hello? I pause, trying to think of something to say, but I can't think of anything, so I simply ask what would be the most normal thing in this situation. Did you need the lavatory? No, I'm just checking to see that you are well. You looked quite shaken up. As Neferu confirms the reason I thought he might be lingering here, I feel just a small flash of irritation. He's looking after me, which is kind and generous of him, as he has no obligation to do so. But it makes me feel childish, him looking after me this closely. Perhaps even suspicious. I adjust my expression to appear more serious, but also calm. A cool, emotionless look. I am fine, thank you, Neferu. Please, do not worry so much for my well-being. I do not wish to be the reason for you neglecting your own duties. The look on Neferu's face is hard to describe. It's not a pleasant look, and it's enough to throw me off despite him not saying anything. Another moment of silence passes, and I begin to think over Khemian etiquette, wondering if I violated a taboo of some kind. Of course, Neferu would be understanding of such thing, but considering that we are not on Adastra anymore, perhaps he is less forgiving now. Just as I begin to open my own mouth to ask what the issue is, Neferu finally speaks. I see, very well. I shall leave you to attend to your own matters then. Apologies for bruising your wolven pride. Neferu turns on its heel before briskly walking away. No! I stand there alone, the low hum of the ship's various moving parts the only sound filling the heavy silence while I try to understand what just happened. I had acted within diplomatic norms, yes, but he was being friendly to you. He was like, hey buddy, are you okay buddy? Oh, Really, any interaction among diplomats is normal as long as only words are used, specifically the right words. Okay, what I think happened, it might be obvious, but it's like Scipio is like, no, I'm on a diplomatic mission now. The mission has started. Now I'm gonna act like a diplomat all the time. While Neferu might be like, when we are around other people doing diplomatic stuff, will have this diplomatic attitude towards each other. But when it's just the two of them alone in a room like this, like, you just said that you two are friends, so act like friends. And I think that's what Neferu got upset with, because like, I'm here to like, just wanted to check in that you're alright. Like I said, he was just being kind. Present an aura of civility, even if your primal instincts are telling you to knock the other's teeth out. This was one of the main issues of pre-Drusus Adastra. Apparently Wolven diplomats of the era routinely took swings at other siblings, and even among themselves when they became angry or offended. Despite this being over 10,000 years in the past, this is a reputation that still haunts us. I suppose it's not helpful that our experimental attempts at a republic has resulted in brawls within the Senate just in the past years. I'm sure footage of the fights was shown gleefully across the new channel of the other siblings, showing that we haven't changed, that there's something innately wrong in our culture or even our species. While I might admit that Wolven hubris has been the main hindrance throughout history, I'm not going to allow myself to be treated as some sort of idiot savage. We have our own culture, our own language, our own universities.
We witnessed it. We saw you bleed because of him. Perhaps he wishes to see you bleed even more.
And I feel that despite my admiration for Khemia as a whole, they have their own issue with hubris. Neferu is a clear example of that. Wolven pride. The hackles along my shoulders begin to rise and I work to contain myself. What an odd and frankly childish thing of him to say. I suppose it was insensitive of me to act in such a manner towards someone who recently called me a friend, but his reaction was clearly hostile and hypocritical. I suspect that he has deeper issues than his facade will ever admit. But the unfamiliar anger in my mind dampens as I remember my duties. Not even 1 hour into my mission and I'm already failing. I stand there for a while in silence, wavering as if on the edge of a cliff before gritting my teeth and clenching my paws into fists. No, none of this. Either I will succeed or I will fail, but in both cases I will continue on and serve the Empire, all for the greater good of Adastra. I am not some Wolven bitch for Khemians to look down upon and shake their heads at. So, pushing through the hurt and embarrassment and blinking past the blur of moisture in my eyes, I set off aimlessly, unsure of where to go, but just wanting to move. I'm sure they'll summon me through Am if I'm needed. As I walk quickly through the corridor, I happen to glance out the window, having forgotten about the nauseating blending lights, and I feel my stomach lurch instantly. But I'm still feeling motivated by my sudden burst of furious confidence in myself, so I say in a low, stern voice, "No." I force myself to continue looking while I walk, demanding my stomach to settle. Still, it doesn't appear that I have gained voluntary control over the mechanism that dedicates nausea in my body. Already irritated by my early failures, I force myself to continue staring, feeling that in a way, this is punishment for being unable to handle simple, easy things that no one else has difficulty handling. It's familiar to when I experienced insomnia when I was first away from home at university. It was disturbingly satisfying to tell my body that it only had itself to blame for being so tired during classes and that maybe it should sleep next time. I do the same now, mentally sneering at my roiling stomach for being so weak that I can't handle the movement of light. Neferu's assurances that others have a weak mind like my own is difficult to believe now. He's probably only saying whatever he thinks I want. My meandering thoughts are brought to a very sudden and rude end as my feet catch something on the floor and my paws flail out for something to grab. I yelp loudly as a few toe claws bend back before landing heavily on my side, my paw pads slapping the smooth, hard floor to keep me from falling further. Rubbing the left side of my hip, I look down at my feet in confusion. 3 metallic crates stick out from a doorway in the corridor, and my foot had been caught in the corner of the one sticking out the furthest.
Huh?
There's a heavy grunt that I recognize immediately, and Brunis sticks out his head in the doorway with a stern squint before looking down and seeing me.
Skip, what the hell are you doing?
My irritation and self-pity are only amplified now. I get to my feet roughly, likely flashing Brunis with my undergarments as I don't bother trying to keep my robe down. He's the type not to care anyway. Is leaving your belongings out for others to injure themselves on a normal Khemian custom? Brunis blinks at me, probably due to the fact that he's never seen me act like this.
Huh? I'm moving stuff right now. Is it a wolf thing not to look where you're going?
I'm simply curious as to whether or not I should be more careful around you Khemians, especially if I want to return to Adastra in one piece.
What the hell tore up your ass, Skip?
I sigh and massage the bridge of my snout with both paws, feeling my stomach lurk again, exacerbated by my falling. I have to admit that Brunis' technique for de-escalating tense situation, despite seeming informal and unrefined, are disarming. I don't know, Brunis. Could I get an anti-emetic, please? Certainly. A drone has been dispatched to your location.
Speaking of which, I just had to deal with Neferu biting off my head for being fat.
I turn my attention back to Brunis. Speaking of which, what do you mean by that?
Speaking of things up your... Oh, crap.
I love Brunis. Brunis winces.
You guys are kinda uptight about these sort of things, aren't you? I didn't mean it like that. You could as well been up his ass for all
I wave my paw, providing an escape for the flustered Wolverine. The anger I had felt already beginning to dissipate. It's difficult to be mad at Brunis anyway. Yes, uptight. Anyway, I'm sorry that I snapped at you. I'm not feeling well.
Yeah, looks like you ain't.
Brunis watches as I'm suddenly distracted by a smooth, glossy black drone that levitates towards me, then extends a tiny white wafer. I take it with some confusion. Thanks. Do I need water or...?
Goes under the tongue.
I try not to visibly blanch at the idea of letting vile medication sit under my tongue for any amount of time, but quick relief is preferable, assuming it works as quickly as Neferu said, or if it even works after the nausea set in. Alright, anyway, what were you saying about Neferu being upset? Does he usually criticize your size? I carefully drop the square wafer under my tongue, hardly feeling it land before I close my mouth, and it dissolves instantly. Brunis shrugs.
Not really. I was in the hall bringing stuff in, and he told me to move and not to take up the entire space or something. He scurried off before I could ask what crawled up his ass. You two fight or something?
Brunis looks at me, waiting for a response. I point at my mouth to remind him of the medication, while simultaneously being glad to have an excuse not to respond.
Oh, you can swallow that now. It's made with some weird nanotech stuff that makes you absorb it in like a few seconds.
The nausea is almost instantly gone, and I'm glad for this Khemian nanotech. I expect the taste to be bitter and acrid, but instead it's slightly sweet and almost non-existent. Fascinating. I say to myself, never having an anti-emic that worked after the fact, though Brunis responds with a face of disgust.
I'd rather feel sick than take that shit. Makes me feel slow as hell all day. Pap takes care of motion sickness and all my other problems too.
The Wolverine looks down at the large crate.
By the way, you're rooming with me. I already pushed your stuff in.
I take a look around Brunis to peer inside that small room with 2 beds on either sides, one of which already has 2 identical metal crates next to it. Oh, thank you, Brunis. It makes me feel guilty, knowing that he had hauled my belongings in first, only for me to yell at him.
Sure, don't know why they dropped all the shit here instead of in the actual rooms though. Yo,
It's silent for a moment, and I wonder if Brunis failed to summon the assistant, but then I remember how it works.
Get me some pap. They destroyed my stash on Adastra.
Brunis gives me a knowing look.
Probably destroyed by that asshole magistrate. I bet he's high off his ass right now.
Oh, was that why he was so energetic when the ship was arriving? And just popped in?
For the sake of Outep.
I'm confused by the sudden change in tone. Then I realize that he's responding to something Am said. I suppose there are downsides to having computer assistance only you can hear.
You want me to list everything? Headache, backache, stomachache, heartache? Yeah, great, thanks.
Brunis turns his attention back to me as I look down at one of the crates. Normally it would be levitating slightly off the ground through the use of magnets, though I suppose the floor here is not capable. Here, I'll push these ones inside. It sounds like you are in a great deal of pain. Brunis shrugs.
I'll live. Just gotta give Am enough reason to justify dealing it out. I don't mind you helping though.
I grunt as I slide one of the cases across the floor, wishing that it at least had wheels. Isn't drug use free and plentiful on Khemia? Brunis makes a snorting sound.
That what they tell you in wolf school?
His knowing, condescending tone might have irritated me, but I know Brunis doesn't mean for it to demean or hurt me. Unlike what Neferu just did. Besides, snide remarks about wolves are something I would probably hear regularly on Khemia, so this is a good opportunity to practice separating my emotions and my work. Well, not told, but shown footage of addicted Khemians in the streets of the capital.
Ugh, propaganda.
Is it not true though?
Doesn't matter if it's true. What matters is what they're using it for.
I decide to let the topic go at that point, knowing that there's truth in what we both said. Also because it's difficult to continue talking under the strain of pushing crates. Brunis gives a much louder grunt as he follows me into the room, pushing the last crate. Anyway, it does seem that you are in a lot of pain. I come to a stop at the foot of what I assume is Brunis' bed, while the Wolverine follows shortly after.
Whoa! One sec. Whoa.
He stoops to catch his breath.
If the orcs flare up real bad, I'll just get a script from the palace doctor.
My slightly heavy breathing is dwarven by the huffing and panting of the Wolverine as he leans heavily against the crate.
I don't like them very much, because not being able to feel pain is kinda scary to me. But like I said, it ain't bad. I can still walk.
Brunis sits on one of the crates, his sizable rear covering most of it. Is it related to when you were injured?
Yup, happens when I was real young though, so it feels normal to me.
I wonder if he's going to tell me what happened, but he doesn't, and I don't press further.
Anyway, Pep helps a bit with that. But it's mostly mental shit where it really does wonder for me. Keeps me sane, I think.
Oh, how so? I try not to seem too interested. Even though we aren't on Adastra, the idea of psychoactive drugs so readily available is frightening.
Well, I guess it kinda makes everything makes a little more sense. Slowing things down so I can think through it properly.
That sounds rather nice. I think that's kind of like how weed works as well.
And what I like more about it is that it makes emotions feel more meaningful, I guess. I don't know though, never had to explain this before. It just feels good.
I raise a brow. Doesn't that get in the way of your work? I know he smokes the pipes almost constantly, and while I can understand using it for leisure, I would be hesitant to alter my mind while doing important work on the behalf of the parents.
Well, that's the thing. I feel things better, and it's easier to empathize, and that's important for diplomacy.
Now I wonder if we're gonna have a moment where Scipio tries out Pap. Oh, and maybe Scipio I just hit me. Maybe we're gonna have a part where both maybe Neferu and Scipio smokes Pap and have like a heart-to-heart or something. I would really like to see that. Like I want what we had with the main character in Adastra and Ampyx. I want to have that with Scipio and Neferu. Please, Howley, give us that. I need that. I need to have a romance with Neferu, please. I wanted to inquire more about emotions and diplomacy, but I'm also unsure if I should be discussing such matters with Brunis. I was told that he is a highly skilled and experienced negotiator in Khemian politics, even graduating from Sabayet, the school Neferu had also gone to. I have to remember that they're watching and observing too, and even if I am the lowest ranking Adastrian here, that could make me a target. I'm spared making the decision as a soundless drone floats into the cabin, this time extending a small black capsule about the size of my thumb. Brunis eyes it before plucking the capsule rather aggressively from the drone.
Thanks, this will give me a solid half hour, Anyway, yeah.
Brunis uses a flick motion of his thumb to open the tiny capsule.
Anyway, yeah. You shouldn't let personal feeling get in the way, but it's important to empathize with the side you're negotiating with.
I watch him pack the strange pipe contraction for a while, the Wolverine handing the flaky green concussion carefully so as not to spill any of it. Can it help with the distracting thoughts? I can't stop myself from asking. I have, for the most part, been able to keep myself in check for the better part of 2 years, but the past hours has left me feeling as if it's all about to fall apart. I realized then how desperate I am for some kind of solution, a fix for this dysfunctional brain of mine. I suppose my approach isn't subtle, however. Brunis leans back and eyes me closely, his pipe held in one paw.
It might, it's different for everyone, but some people use it to focus. Are you doing okay, by the way?
Definitely. As you know, it's very illegal to possess such a substance on Adastra, so I'm simply curious about this part of Khemian culture. Brunis continues to study me, and I try to keep my paws from fidgeting by clasping them together. Perhaps it doesn't matter, considering Neferu would likely tell Brunis about my issues anyway, despite his promise.
Well, PEP is just a Khemian strain of Chroma, which is native of Mammophora. Kind of funny how it's banned on Adastra, when you guys borrowed so much from the cats.
Brunis winks at me to lighten the jab, even though I'm too anxious at the idea of this plant to even really register it.
Anyway, if you really are interested, I can take you to a Mammophora dispensary. The cats really know their shit when it comes to anything plant-related, obviously. They got a bunch of stuff that might be better for you.
Well, maybe I'll have a look at that sometime. Brunis can clearly see that I'm interested, which only convinces me to back out of this odd, reckless attempt to fix myself. While I know that much of the education that I received on the use of recreational drugs was simply state-sponsored propaganda, I still feel deeply uneasy about it. Using a drug to patch over mental deficiency like mine simply feels unwise. Just as I'm about to head over to my side of the room, however, Brunis sticks his pipe out towards me. Oh?
Wanna puff? I know it's not a wolf thing, but it'd be rude of me not to offer.
I stare at the pipe for a moment, my curiosity rekindled just for a moment, before the words of my instructor in mindfulness comes to mind.
Meditation is key, Scipio. Alcohol only damages your self-awareness and self-control.
I assume that he would say this about most drugs, especially those used for mind alteration, so I hold out the paw. I'm tempted due to wanting to understand Khemian culture better, but I should avoid any psychoactive substances while I'm on the mission.
That's probably a good idea. It can be a hard one to predict if you never had it.
The big Wolverine ambles over to his own bed, sitting down with a heavy sigh, inhaling from his pipe, the room filling with that herbal smell before it quickly dissipates again. It must be the air filtration system vacuuming it away.
So, what do wolves do for fun when everything is illegal?
I sit back, feeling a bit more sluggish now, probably due to the nausea medication. We have alcohol. Saying this reminds me of the time I asked my doctor for something to help cope with the anxiety 3 years ago. I especially remember his look of surprise and confusion that sedatives were a womanly medication and that I should instead go buy some cheap drink instead. It certainly felt manly, boldly drinking an entire mug of toxic tasting ale while my friends cheer me on. And it did help, at least until I began blacking out from drinking too much, and that frightened me away from it. Probably for the best. Brunis makes a face.
Bleh, not a fan of that stuff. Makes me sick and gives me a headache.
I don't enjoy it anymore. I mainly partook to better match the mood of my friends on our nights off.
Oh, I understand that feeling. And it tastes like shit. Sure, acquired taste and all, but it all tastes the same to me. Just different shades of shit.
I kind of agree with Brunis on this. It's like alcohol to me as well. Like when it comes to spirits, it's just like, it all has that shit taste to it. Yeah, and the taste will probably make me vomit these days. But mostly I didn't like the feeling of having less control over myself. I've seen a few friends completely consumed by it, and it's a terrible thing. I wonder about them now. Gaius, who had gone from perfect marks at university to living on the streets. It had happened after losing his best friend in the riots, who was also a friend of mine. Spurious. My breath hitches as I sit up straighter. Sorry, Brunis, but do you mind if I meditate?
Oh, yeah, not at all. Do you, need me to leave?
No, you're fine. Brunis nods and lies back on his bed, staring at the ceiling as he continues to smoke his pipe. I sit cross-legged at the foot of my bed, beginning with the familiar first steps of focusing on my breath. I listen to my breathing and I feel the rise and fall of my torso. I smell the pipeway along with the slightly stale and metallic scent of the recycled air. I'm surprised by how I feel right now, as if I could do more complex meditation without issue, but I don't dare do that without my instructor. Neferu might know how. I feel my anxiety spike, but I quickly focus again. I'm here in the moment, without judgment. They pushed him out of the dormitory window and he landed on his head, on the cobblestone. He was just trying to hide. Why would they do this? Why would anyone do this? Because they're mindless, uneducated scum. What else should be expected from those districts? I'm breathing. Remember breathing. But I feel my mind wanting to leave, almost like it's levitating, being drawn towards something else. My eyes fly open, shocked.
Shit, sorry. Tried to lift one of the crates off my bed so I didn't have to bend over and I dropped. Skip?
I can't move or speak. Everything appears strange, vivid and crisp. I can smell the assassin's blood and entrails again. Oh, this is scary.
The airwalk is going to stay with you forever, isn't it?
The voice that I've only heard in my dreams whispered directly into my ear. It's a real voice, not one that comes from my head or imagination. It's a rustling of dead leaves, rattling out of the throat of something ancient, something that knows me better than I know myself. I feel myself back in the den, so I reach for the only escape I can, the feeling that was pulling at my mind earlier.
Shit!
I hear Brunis' panicked voice, but I'm far too detached to even wonder about what he said, or why. I vaguely feel a jolt through my head and body. But that's it. Then I feel nothing.
This is what your true peace feels like, Scipio. But even better, because you don't exist at all. Imagine a universe without life. How peaceful things would be then.
Nothing. It's a perfect feeling.
Sapiens cannot be trusted. You included, Scipio. Remember how the Cretin wolves treated you? Remember how the Khemians treat the wolves? Remember how Neferu treated you? And do you remember your true purpose here? How you are treating Neferu?
I hate it.
But most importantly, remember how the parents treat sapiens in the name of agency. And yet, what choice do any of you have? You can help those like you and all other sapiens.
I would if I could.
You can.
I have no idea how long it's been, but then I feel back in my own mind and even more confused about where I am. I wonder if I have died. Like Urbicus died. Maybe I fell and hit my head and died, like Spurius did. Or maybe our ship somehow crashed, and I've been left to float through space forever. Or for only a few more seconds before I suffocate. That would be alright, I decide, even as I take a deep, easy breath of air. I would rather feel this way, insignificant and meaningless against the monolithic oppression of the universe. It makes me feel oddly peaceful. Oh my goodness, Scipio. If only your friends and colleagues would hear half of what you think. A deep but feminine voice comes from seemingly every direction. I look around, suddenly feeling as if I'm being spied upon, wondering if the directionless voice is from my own head. What? Those weren't my thoughts though. There's a deep, raspish chuckle, one that I recognize as distinctly feline. The one that I heard from recordings involving Hindu tigers. Perhaps not, but do you not agree with them, young wolf? Who are you? Are you from Hindo? Very good. Especially for a wolf living in a time where Hindo has severed relationships with Adastra completely. Mira! What are you doing here? But can you guess who I actually am? Her eyes are so piercing, so intense that although I want to ask again what's actually happening, I feel obliged to answer. Wasn't the darkness using her as like a mouthpiece? Or like talking through her or something? And so I quickly run through the list of tigers I know of, only one of which is alive, the current ruler of Hindo. Maharani Arti? The tigress eyes me closely, so I lower my ears, just wishing that I can go back soon. Consider the impossibility of where you are. Do you think Arti would try to come all the way here to talk to some rebellious pup? I swallow hard, trying to keep my breathing even, because whatever this is, I think that is somehow real. But there could be an explanation. Are you Mira? The quiet smile on her face answers my question. Well, I suppose 2 attempts is not terrible. Though I must say that the human knew immediately. Amicus human? Yes. The voice of dead leaves is gone now, as is the feeling of nothingness, and I'm embarrassed as I long to be back there, knowing the tigress knows what I'm thinking. Mira stays silent, though the look on her face tells me that she is waiting for me to speak. Are the parents doing this? Are they making contact with me? It is rumored that they did the same with the human. It just hit me that Mira to me was in an alternative vision, because I got the vision instead where the main character, the human, saw the vision of his and Amicus' future together. Does this mean that the other one that I saw as like a side thing was actually the canon? Oh shit. Mira is quiet for a while, so I stay quiet as well, unable to think of any other reason for this to be happening, if it really is happening. The parents are a complex matter, Scipio. Direct communication with them is impossible, unless they break their own rules against interference. She narrows her eyes. Think more logically though. Concerning the voice, could the parents say such things to you? I answer honestly. I don't know. I tried to think logically as she told me to. Maybe it's a test, or maybe this is part of the plan? Do you know who that was? Was it you? Mira is quiet again, but it's more like she's pondering something. I cannot say for certain, Scipio, but what I do know is that you do not trust the parents. That sends a jolt of fear through me. I do! I just don't understand what the purpose of any of this is. The tiger chuckles again. Take comfort in the fact that it's no fault of your own. The parents plant all the seeds after all. Why did you bring me here? Is there something I'm supposed to do? Or maybe you have instructions? You brought yourself here, Scipio. The stretch drive makes the layers between planes more permeable. Would you believe that the parents physically stopped the human from killing Amicus while they were in the stretch? I don't know if I do, and I don't know what to say. Such agency they gifted us with, eh? Mira taps her finger on her head. The fear continues to rise in me, not wanting to anger the parents, and not wanting to be dead because the amalgamation is where we truly go. You fear death? You fear the amalgamation. Rather, you feel it is an abomination, and deep down, though you will not admire it, even to yourself. My fur bristles, and I try to jolt myself awake, but nothing happens. You do not trust the parents, or anyone for that matter. Am I going to be punished? They know I'm a fraud on a mission to further parental agendas when I don't believe them to be right. I'm only here for selfish reasons. I believe disagreeing with their grand plan is one of the lesser troubling thoughts in your mind. You have enough hatred to set fire to those wolves yourself. You are capable of dark things, Scipio. But who wouldn't be after that day? I realize my legs are trembling, that I can at least feel them, and that gives me hope. Please wake up. Mira raises a paw. Easy, young wolf. I am only here to help you, to warn, and to advise. You need guidance, and I am here to offer it if you will take it. I frown and rack my brain for the lessons I had on Mira, if she was ever used in this manner in the past. Her main purpose was of self-sacrifice, to push Drusus in the correct directions of the Empire. She has little to do with the parents. As far as I know, it's only the monitors that can communicate with the parents. Does that mean that this is not sanctioned by the parents? Yes, and do not be afraid that you are not in lockstep with their vision for the future. They've limited themselves by processing the importance of free will, choice without interference. I am not afraid to admit that I disagree with them completely. I never entered the amalgamation as I believe that it is an attack on life rather than a preservation of it. Besides, they can't even agree with each other. They bicker just as much as the siblings. Oh. The borders of this odd in-between world begin to shimmer and fade, and I realize it's ending. Wait! Please! You said that you didn't have to go to the amalgamation? That you can fix me? Can you tell me more of that voice? Please, don't leave me yet! Mira smiles at me, at my desperation that I know must look insane, but I truly am desperate. This is not going to be the last time we speak. Trust that I will appear again when the time is right. This was merely an introduction. Okay. Thank you, Mira. It was a pleasure meeting you, Scipio. Until next time. But as I'm feeling the relief of escape, another voice adds their own thoughts just as I'm leaving. One that I recognize. Higher pitched and female. That of a jackal. There we go! Scipio, say this to Neferu. Netek aum hotep ak. Tell him to stop sulking like a salt prince and communicate with you. This is important. He'll understand. I feel my body once more, and I'm lying on something soft.
I don't know. He said he was gonna meditate and then he looked all scared before his eyes just rolled into the back of his head.
I can't move, my body feeling locked in place, though my fingers and ears start to regain some movement. Did you give him something?
No!
Skip? My paws begin to shift.
Hey, look, he's moving!
I feel a touch on my shoulder, gentle and tentative. Did you blow the vapor in his direction? He is a wolf and he has no experience with that drug. He could be very sensitive to it.
If that's all it takes to get him high, then why hasn't he ever freaked out when he's sitting next to me?
I'm sorry to tell you something you already know, but Pup smells terrible. He turns his nose away whenever you get close. As I begin to come back to what I believe is reality, they continue to go back and forth, and I imagine their voices in a sparring match. It reminds me of the one time Neferu managed to convince the Wolverine to spar. Despite his build and size, Brunis isn't much of a fighter. The match barely lasted more than a minute before Brunis was on his knees and retching so loud he sounded like a giant squawking bird. Even though I felt bad for him at the time, I chuckle, surprising even myself. Then, all at once, the paralysis releases me and I shift slowly. I'm confused for a moment, then sit up quickly. I realize the scene I'm making now, but I don't know what happened. All I can do is to say the one thing that might confirm that I'm not going insane before I forget it. Netek aum hotep ak? The way they stare at me makes my ears fall back for a moment. Embarrassed about my clumsy, heavy accent despite the situation, knowing that my words are heard directly by both of them, unfiltered by the linguas. But I'm more worried that if it was only a dream, I'd probably spoken some Fox, Khemian gibberish pulled from my pre-immediate knowledge of the language. I almost want to make the excuse that it takes years to learn Khemian, especially for wolves. Neferu's reaction says otherwise though, but I'm sure that is not a preferable one. What did you say? I stare back at him, feeling out of body, as if I've suddenly been dropped here from a distant moon. Clearly it meant something, possibly something serious, or even something bad. I don't know, I was meditating and I got lost and... I don't know. I cover my face, finally overwhelmed and not knowing what to do. What the hell is happening to me? It's quiet, but I hear them murmur to each other for a moment, followed by movement, and when I look up, Brunis is gone. The bed shifts with added weight as Neferu sits next to me. It's quiet, as if waiting for me to say more, to explain what I had just said. I'm sorry, I don't know what that means. I know the words for peace and maybe welcome, but there's a lack of resources to learn Khemian on Adastra, and it's especially hard for Adastrans because the differences... I realize that I'm over-explaining and trail off, deciding to wait for Neferu to break the silence. It sounded fine, Skip. It's the first time I heard the wolf speak a full sentence of Khemian actually, but I'm much more interested in what prompted you to say it. Is it a bad thing to say? I try to keep my paws from gripping my thighs too tightly, but Neferu shakes his head. It means welcome and be at ease, brother. As if to pay me in kind, he says it back in Adastrian. Now I hear Neferu's voice unfiltered, but his accent is pleasant, almost sing-song in its quality, and I know it sounds better than my own bumbling accent stumbling over Khemian. I can tell he's fluent just from that sentence. Neferu waves a paw as if brushing something aside. Roughly anyway, it can be worded in many ways, but I'm wondering where you heard it, or why you said it. I look down at the sterile metal floor of the ship, only now able to absorb what I've seen and heard while I've been meditating, though meditation has never done anything like that to me before. As I think back to it, I don't want to tell him the majority of what I saw and heard, but I can at least tell him about the third and final voice. I heard a voice while meditating, a female jackal, I think. Neferu is clearly trying to keep his reaction muted, but he can't fully hide his surprise. I feel a bit uneasy again. Should I be wary of it? I didn't see anyone. Did that voice say anything else? My ears dug down again. It mentioned that, you should communicate with me and stop sulking like a spoiled prince or something. Neferu makes a soft huffing sound of surprise, almost like a laugh. It really is her then. Who? My youngest sister Aya. Really? Why would she contact me? How can she even contact me like that? She's on Khemia, right? I'd studied the royal family, but there was a noticeable lack of information on the youngest of the 4 siblings aside from her being some sort of religious scholars who performed traditional Khemia rituals for the family. She is on Khemia, yes, but as how she is contacting you or why, I'm not sure. She certainly never contacted me like that in the past 3 years. There's a touch of bitterness in his voice, likely covering up the hurt he feels if it's true that Aya is the only member of his family that Neferu is close to. But how is it even possible for her to do that? She said you would understand. Well, her duties involves things that are quite abstract and beyond my own understanding. If she scolded me and said that I should communicate with you, she might have interest in you specifically for whatever reason. It's quiet for a few seconds. But how does she even know me? This is making me feel like I'm still dreaming, Neferu. You don't even see that surprise that she's able to do this. I know he's not telling me everything he knows. Neferu opens his mouth, then closes it, as if struggling to find the right words. Don't worry too much about it. She can be hard to understand and sometimes get excited over things that others will find insignificant. This doesn't feel like communication to me. Neferu, you are emotionally close to her, right? Yes, Probably because the two of us didn't really exactly fit in with the family, though she is doing a much better job of it than I am. So she must have told you at some point what she's capable of, what her role is. Neferu, she is reaching across light years to speak with me, and I'm a bit concerned about that. Neferu sighs deeply. The truth is that I'm under parental oath not to discuss it. I might not even be allowed to say that, but I'll wait for a monitor to smite me if that is the case. I know that it sounds very strange and even frightening, so I didn't want to add to your worries. Keep in mind that she, like I, can be a bit dramatic at times. I see. I don't see. I still have many questions about the other voices she seemed to be fighting against, but maybe I can talk to Aya herself about it, if I'm even allowed to do so. I can say that if she has the ability to astral project to contact other sapiens, then that is new information to me. However, it's not out of the realm of possibility considering what she does. If that were always the case, I would have expected her to have given me advice over the past 3 years. Again, I might even get in trouble for even saying this much. I think. I apologize in advance for even suggesting this, but you have every reason to believe that she's currently alive, right? Of course, why wouldn't she be? Now Neferu is the one looking nervous. I fully decide then that I won't bring up Mira, who is very much dead. Sorry, just trying to figure out how this happened. I've heard claims that unamalgamated spirits can do that. Well, if that were somehow the case, I would be a bit upset that she has appeared only to you to tell me to stop feeling sorry for myself. Not entirely bad advice though. However, she would be amalgamated, no doubt. I can still see that I worried Neferu, so I decide to move the conversation along by asking about what she meant. That makes sense. Maybe I can meet her when we arrive, assuming that it was really her? Of course! I'll introduce you. Thank you, Neferu. So if you're not allowing me to discuss her duties, what do you think she meant when she said to communicate with me? Judging by what you told me, I think she wants me to help you, instead of acting as I did when you came out of the lavatory. I suddenly feel better, despite the terrifying ordeal I had experienced during my meditation. Neferu's sister encouraging us to communicate will be very helpful to me, as she seems to have a good deal of influence, and not just over her brother. Well, I did react in a rude way myself. I could tell what I said was hurtful to you, and I was just embarrassed about being seen in that moment of weakness. You need not apologize. I was being nosy and you reacted in an understandable way. If you'll accept my excuse, my overreaction is rooted in past experiences. Oh, how so? I once knew an Omaphoran by the name of Alexios. Oh, you knew him personally? Alexios, the sibling pet and rumored lover of Cassius, the former false emperor and also Amycus' brother. Alexios was an agent of Omophora, sent to Adastra to sow chaos in the very fabric of our society, a mission that was ultimately successful. One could say that he is the main reason for the riots occurring. Well, I knew him, but I doubt anyone knew him personally, aside from maybe Cassius. Anyway, despite nearly topping Adastra, he was never really a very good spy, but he was underestimated, and he struck Cassius' fancy. It's easier to be a spy when you have direct connection to the very heart of power. Neferu looks at me candidly, in case I missed it. But I didn't. I already know that he sees right through me, but I also think that I sometimes see right through him. In all honesty though, I wasn't thinking about the game I or the both of us are playing. I should be calculating the best way to establish a relationship that Neferu will feel reliant upon, even if it's the terminal to Khemia. Vetris told me earlier that this is an especially promising exploit, considering Neferu's relationship to his family is poor, to put it lightly. That's my end goal, despite the slim odds of it ever going that far, or even being needed. I think it's needed, for my sake. His brother and younger sister are both in position of much higher power and influence, and after learning about his younger sister and her secretive directives, she might be as well. But for the first time, for right now at least, I'm following my emotions where they take me. The dutiful part of me, the part that I thought was all of me, is scolding myself. But for some reason, after the experience I just had, it doesn't feel like it's a most pressing issue. It's a bit alarming, but I calm myself by reasoning that this is simply the best way to approach Neferu, that my beliefs and goals have not changed. One strange experience during meditation, an experience I'm not even sure was real, should not be able to cause that. Another part of me, one that feels foreign, knows that it was real, but that won't help with same calm. I see. Well, whenever he found himself cornered, he often resorted to a very strange state of mind. Basically, he would exhibit the expression and emotion of a rock, a classic diplomatic defense maneuver he often used to get out of situations he couldn't, though he was never subtle about it. He is possibly the most selfish, amoral political official I have ever had the pleasure of dealing with. To be clear, I knew his motives were to serve Omophora, which can be argued to be the most anti-Adastrian sibling world. But what I didn't expect was a sniveling coward willing to destroy the foundation of an entire sibling civilization and cause loss of lives in the thousands. I nod, though having not known the cat, I feel a bit detached. Omophora has always loathed Adastra, as they see us to be the biggest threat to stability in the galaxies. That, along with having parents who shared the same galaxy before arriving, resulted in a closeness of our cultures that only emphasizes our differences. And with all due respect to Amicus, I had always viewed the situation to be the fault of the Imperial family for allowing an Omophoran to get so close in the first place. Anyway, when you came out of the lavatory, the look you gave me was strikingly similar, but I know that it was not you, Scipio. You are a good, honest person, and I know that you would never do such a thing if the intention is simply chaos and distraction. And despite our differences in culture and language, and despite the history between our people, you are my friend and I trust you. Yippee! I almost smile, despite myself. This is Neferu communicating. Perhaps he's an outlier among the supposedly blunt Khemians, but I'm able to understand what he's saying. I know that you are here to gather intelligence, to better Adastra's position in the Alliance, and to use me as a tool, just as Alexius used Cassius. I'm lonely and I need someone that I can call a friend, a true friend, and in this relationship, I know that you have nothing to lose, while I could lose everything. But I also know that you are full of compassion and you would never do what he did, and so, while I know that you can't be trusted, I trust you. The real question is if he's making the right choice. I look Neferu in the eye, in what I hope is in a meaningful way, so that he might know that I understand. And I trust you. I simply want the galaxy to achieve harmony and... It sounds pop-like, but all I want is less hardship and anguish for sapiens and all other living things. I feel the fur on the nape of my neck bristle just slightly, feeling sick just being in my skin. I would watch the Clay District burn for the sheer pleasure of it. Why feel anything but joy in the destruction of the uneducated, cruel sapiens who act like dumb beasts, lesser than livestock? Thank you, Skip. Truly, I have a feeling that this experience will change our life, and your perspective of life itself. Adastra did that for me, both bad and good, but I wouldn't take it back, so just keep an open mind, and I'll always be available if you need help. Thank you, Neferu, truly. And please, if I offend you again, just talk to me. We are friends, Wolven friends after all. And that means that you can be very blunt. Sounds like a plan. Now, we should get some sleep so as to not throw off our schedules when we arrive in about 6 hours. Brunis is actually in my room, so I can sleep in his bed, if you don't mind. I don't mind, and we both end up sleeping in my bed. Aww! That's cute. I want more of that. Mercifully, I'm left alone by the voices. That's until I hear Am. Exiting stretch drive in 10 minutes. Prepare for security check and royal escort. To be continued. Wow! Huh. I really like where this story is going. And I think Neferu just keeps cementing himself as my favorite character when it comes to this series. Oh, I really hope that just for my own sake, I want there to be like I said before, I want there to be an actual relationship between Scipio and Neferu, and maybe Scipio will stay on Khemia afterwards with Neferu. But I want them to explore Neferu's psyche more and like Neferu's emotional side, because he's like the whole time in Adastra he was also always just like a trickster, kind of like Alexios was. Like we know why Alexios was kind, because he wasn't really kind, but like we see Neferu is actually kind. So I hope we get to see more of that, and it would be so nice to have like them having a relationship in the end. But anyway, it happened more. There was the darkness and Mira. What the fuck with Mira? What is all that? Like I was thinking that maybe Mira is actually like an agent of the darkness, instead of her going to the amalgamation, if that's something they can even choose. Maybe they have some kind of like willpower. When they die, they just like want something else. They have such a strong will for something else than going to the amalgamation that maybe they don't. They get stuck in like in another dimension or something, and that is what Mira wants the whole world to be. She was like, if it's the whole thing of like, I want to end all suffering by ending all life. If there is no life, there is no suffering. If that is like what they're going for, and that could be kind of interesting, like how they get there, and if this is what Scipio is after. I like that this is something that appeared in Adastra, but the human didn't get to do anything with it. But it seems like now that can be like the main focus, like maybe not for the story itself, but Scipio's personal struggle is the darkness, or I might be misremembering, maybe it's not called the darkness, but you probably know what I mean. And I like how we get Neferu's points of view on the story of Adastra, like how he talked about what happened when the human died, and as well as he talked about Alexios and how he viewed Alexios. I really like that, how it ties together the other games or the other visual novels. They're building off each other. The next episode, or the next Khemia chapter, it's gonna be really interesting, because then we get to see what their technology is, like what is Khemia, because Khemia has been teased since Neferu showed up, like early Adastra, and now we are actually gonna get to see it, and I'm very excited about that. I'm really enjoying Khemia so far, and if I'm being honest, I actually enjoying Khemia so far better than I enjoy Interia. But that is because like I said, I'm more of a team Neferu than team Amicus. Not saying that I don't like Amicus, I love Amicus, but like Neferu is my type of character. I don't think, now that I'm recording this, they haven't been released any more Interia or Khemia so far. Yo, so this is Bo the Doggo from editing. The third chapter of Khemia has been released on their Patreon, so I have recorded it, but I haven't edited that episode yet. But I won't upload it until after they have published it to the masses on like Itch.io or something. In a perfect world, that will be the same day, but they might release it earlier than I do. So stay tuned for that if you want to see it now, though. It's available on their Patreon. And while going to the Patreon to check this out, I saw that there's gonna be a new Interia chapter this month of April as well. So I will record that when I have the time, and I will release that when it's released to the public. So stay tuned for that. And back to me a month ago recording this. I hope I can keep this up and make some more like visual novel stuff like this. I'm really enjoying it so far, but it's like like I said before, I have a very split on this. But it's the mindset about like I'm rambling now. But it's like I have to just go in with the right mindset to do this, and I think I'm gonna enjoy it much more. But thank you to all patrons on screen, and thank you for watching and listening, or if you like. Oh, I'm sorry if you have been listening to this while like you were doing something else, and now you've been having to listen to me just ramble for 5 minutes. I'm sorry, and thank you for doing that. The like 3 people maybe that do that. So I'm not gonna hold you any longer. You're gonna get to watch a new video. So take care, and remember that you are loved and appreciated, and you should be proud of who you are. And yeah, see you in the next video. Bye! By engineers that were not only knowledgeable,